They faced each other across the wrecked green, the ancient god of destruction, and the newly awakened Super Saiyan god. Gohan simply stood there for a second, reveling in the feeling of his new form. Unimaginable power welled around him, with no strain at all required to bring it to the surface. This all taken in, he turned his attention to Beerus, raising a fist and taking a step forwards. Hold on a second. Beerus raised a cautious hand. He clearly hasn't figured it out yet. His mindset isn't quite like a normal warrior's. If he goes all out here... His mind scrambled for an excuse to relocate. I want to test your speed. You people are familiar with the Northern Kai, I believe. We will begin our first fight at his home. What? Goku blinked. You can actually fly all that way? Of course, Beerus replied. Of course, Beerus replied. It's actually not far from here. I won't even need Whis' staff's long-distance flight capabilities. With no more than that, he took off, leaving a fiery slipstream behind him as he cleared the atmosphere in seconds, still accelerating. Gohan? You going to head after him? Raditz prompted. It will avoid collateral damage to West City. Sure, Gohan's eyes narrowed. Just searching for King Kai's energy. You always said that only a yard rat could teach instant transmission. You never could think of how to go about it. He grinned. But when we combined our abilities to move the hyperbolic time chamber, it was like experiencing it for myself. The rest was just replication and study. And that's my specialty. He raised his index and middle finger to his forehead, and was gone. Did you know about this? Raditz looked back at Gohan's family. No, Chi-Chi admitted. But then he only lives with us half the time now anyway. He probably did most of his practicing at Vidal's. Huh. Who'd have thought? Raditz folded his arms sulkily. I didn't learn shifting from that, for one thing. That's because you're not an academic, Chi-Chi countered. Like he said, replication and study. See? All that schooling is coming in useful in saving the world too. And I don't remember the last time martial arts helped anyone out at school. Vidal shrugged. I don't know. After I convinced him it was okay to show a little of his strength, people stopped picking on him pretty fast. It was a rhetorical question! It wasn't a question. Whatever! Chi-Chi threw her hands up in verbal defeat. Otherworld. Beerus landed on King Kai's small planet to find the Super Saiyan God already waiting for him. I'm certain you didn't pass me. Instant transmission. You might have heard of it, Gohan replied curtly. It also let me get the Kai and his monkey out of harm's way a second ago, so I'm free to go all out now. And to find out what all out means in this form. I guarantee it'll be a surprise. Beerus agreed, tail waving impatiently. Gohan mockingly mimicked the God of Destruction's movements with his own tail. Sure. Now, if you're just going to float there, I guess I'll come to you. Go ahead. Beerus raised one hand in a high guard, keeping the other tucked back by his chest. Tensing for a second, Gohan shot forward like a spring released. The distance between them was swallowed up quicker than he believed possible, and when his fist struck Beerus' block, well, a lot of things happened at once. First of all, back up for a minute, to before the impact. As Gohan got closer, the world started to warp before his eyes. In fact, before he was even up to his opponent, it had gone completely mad. He could see nothing but a jumbled swirl of flashing colors. His new and improved ki sense, however, took over seamlessly, and he knew exactly where Beerus was, reading the energy radiation like a radar image. Then the air in front of him turned solid. He was used to this. Going at supersonic speeds, after all, which they've been doing for decades, produces a sonic boom from the air not being able to get out of your way fast enough and being smacked aside. But now it felt like the air was not just slow, but completely frozen. It didn't hurt him or slow him down, especially not as a god, but it was disconcerting. There was a sucking sensation behind him as he left a vacuum in his wake, and so sped up were his perceptions that he had enough time before making contact with Beerus to notice the empty void he left behind, the air not even begun to move in to fill the gap. In case it hadn't quite sunk in yet, it was now pretty clear that Gohan was moving pretty damn fast. The air in front of him wasn't done acting strangely yet, though. As he pushed through it, it heated up, and he felt a multitude of small tingles as tiny bursts of energy were fired off in front of him from the area where the air touched the edge of his flame-red aura. This wave of self-igniting air raced on slightly ahead of him as he neared his target. The whole area around him, in fact, was now on fire. An almost liquid flame sprung up as if from nowhere. Had he been a lesser being, the backblast of this process would have slowed him down. But Gohan barely felt a thing. The wave of preceding energy washed over Beerus like a wave breaking over a fortress. And then, Gohan's fists met Beerus' forearm. The preceding fireworks were nothing. As soon as contact was made, what was quite literally a nuclear blast exploded outwards from them, engulfing and chewing up miles of Snake Way, with Great Road burning and falling in disintegrating fragments, scorching the grass off King Kai's planet and reducing his house to rubble. As the roar of the blast died down, though the flames still raged around them, Beerus lowered his arm, stepping back and hovering confidently in front of Gohan. "Well, are you satisfied?" Gohan stared at his trembling hand, mystified. "What did I do?" Beerus' eyes narrowed. "You just felt what it's like to exceed the velocity of light. God." "What?" "This is what it means to be a god," Beerus continued. "A more experienced fighter would have known they'd unleash something. They'd have known to do as I do and direct the full force of the blast towards the opponent with careful application of ki. I wouldn't have had to explain this to one of the others like your father, but I wanted you to find out for yourself, which is why I suggested this remote battleground." Gohan still stared uncomprehendingly. "When you move at anything like the speed of light, the particles in the ore that shield you fuse with the air, and as you humans know, nuclear fusion is a dangerous force. A wave of plasma, I think it is, spreads out and devours everything in its path." He paused. "In addition, the faster you go, the heavier you become. At that speed, for an instant, you possessed infinite mass. Had I been anyone else, I would have been smashed to atoms." Gohan looked around at the devastation. "If I'd done this on Earth..." "Thanks, Dad." He realized something. "So that's why my vision went strange just then. I was out racing the light that was letting me see, instead just running straight into a random jumble of photons. Guess I'll have to rely on my other senses." What Beerus had seen was interesting too. Just as the sonic boom follows supersonic travel, faster than light movement is followed by a superluminal flash, as the light emitted by Gohan followed hot on his heels. And indeed, while moving at that speed, he was truly invisible. Hold on. If my mass was infinity, doesn't that mean it would take infinite energy to move myself? I can feel my own power level, and it's enormous, but not infinite. "Divine Ki doesn't follow the rules of energy as you know it," Beerus muttered. "I don't understand it myself. Try not to think about it." In actual fact, even this was a simplification. If you moved at exactly light speed, you'd gain infinite mass. Gohan had been going faster. However, different size infinities is another subject that should really be filed under "don't think about it." Anyway, the solution is directing the blast, you say? I can do that. I hope so. Beerus clicked his neck. That first blow lacked the stopping power I was hoping for. Maybe if you focus all that destructive force on me, I'll break a sweat. Don't try and play tough with me anymore. Gohan clenched his fist, preparing to attack again. I can sense your power now, and I'm not intimidated. Then I guess I'll have to try harder! Beerus suddenly yelled, kicking off the air and rushing Gohan. He blocked a punch cross-armed, lurching forwards and headbutting Beerus in the center of the face. Beerus grunted, but didn't flinch, grabbing Gohan's head between both hands and throwing him down at King Kai's planet. Despite being dense enough to create a gravity 10 times that of Earth's, while being small enough to circumnavigate in minutes, Gohan plowed through it, shattering the entire world, and only coming to a halt half a mile or so behind it. I'm starting to get used to this, even detecting Divine Ki. And I'm not quite using my full power. I better change that. No need for a warm-up. This is serious. He didn't have to power up, scream, wave his arms around. His aura simply expanded a bit. And there, just like that, was his full power. That's more like it. Beerus was charging down at him, and he dodged the first tail swipe, elbowing the Hakaishin in the face and following up with a spinning kick that flung Beerus away, landing him on the jagged, broken-off end of Snake Way. He picked himself up, shaking the dizziness out of his head. Ah, you're a serious one, powering up that much from the start. I hadn't been using more than half my power. You'll have to excuse me. His own purple aura expanded slightly. Alright, now we can continue. Oh, I have your permission, do I? I'm so glad. Sighing, Gohan flew back up at Beerus, throwing an energy blast from each hand. Beerus jumped, letting them pass underneath him, and Gohan flew into him fist first. He spun with the blow, using the momentum to propel a hammer fist into Gohan's side, then grabbed him by the forearm and tossed him upwards into the golden clouds that surrounded the heavenly road. Gohan, immersed in the clouds, lost all sense of direction. So in the end, he simply picked a random direction and set off in that way, finally emerging in front of a large, mostly green planet with dots of blue. He sensed a familiar ki coming from the surface, in fact. Below. Kibito Shin paced anxiously. I don't feel Gohan's ki anymore. Has he been killed? Or just injured to the point where I can't sense him from this distance? No, Old Kai answered. He's just transcended your ability to sense him. What are... A blur of red and purple hit the ground like a meteor. Gohan and Beerus were trading blows far too fast to follow, appearing to each have hundreds of arms and legs, and the light reflected off them only occasionally, capturing small snapshots of their fight. Even those were breathtakingly fast. Hey kiddo! Old Kai yelled, scrambling towards his descendant. Get us out of here before this place becomes a war zone! Right. With a concerned look at Gohan's blurred form, Kibito Shin teleported them away. Beerus blocked an uppercut, tripping Gohan and staggering him away with a couple of quick jabs. Gohan jumped back to avoid any further follow-ups, pausing to recover his breath. You're skilled. And you might be slightly stronger than me, too. Don't tell me you're giving up, Beerus pouted. You must have faced a superior foe before. At times of reality, or God, if you like. He grinned at this. Hand you down these trials. I know, Gohan grinned. It's annoying. I guess I'll have to step it up a bit. Your advantage is only for pure physical combat. He threw a straight punch directly to the right, shifting it through a portal towards the back of Beerus' head. The Hakaishin tried to duck, receiving a glancing hit, the brief stunning effect allowing Gohan to plant a kick in his stomach, knocking him back. Gohan made an instant transmission jump to directly above him, a double-fisted hammer smashing him into the ground. Gohan charged down at him, and Beerus rolled away, Gohan's fist striking the ground directly and blasting a 3-meter-wide crater right through the planet. Damn it! He growled as Beerus ran back and at him. Interesting techniques. Beerus complimented the Super Saiyan God, blocking and countering, giving Gohan a bloody nose. He blocked a kick with his knee, landing another elbow hit. Trying to recover, Gohan formed a cluster of energy blasts in one hand, throwing them into the air and scattering them around the pair of them. Focusing, he opened up several portals and shifted the blast back towards Beerus, firing energy bullets at him from all directions. Beerus grinned as he dodged through the rapid-fire attack towards Gohan. Nice one! But you had to focus on too many at once. The attack pattern's too predictable. He sent Gohan flying away with a running jump kick. Gohan, after accidentally turning a backwards somersault in the air, managed to skid to a halt, forming an energy sword around his arm. I should be able to extend the range when I swing and hit him from over here. He swung, the sword lancing out for miles, but Beerus sidestepped it and it merely carved through layers of rock. Strangely, he then stood still for a while, looking smug. Gohan was just trying to work out what he was so happy about, when with a deep rumble, the pieces of the ground they were on began to grind apart. Showers of molten lava sprung up through the crack between them. Oh dear, Beerus said cheerily. You really should be more careful with other people's planets. I think you cut it clean in two. Gohan grimaced as fully half of the planet fell away, slowly drifting off from his half and trailing oceans of molten rock, Beerus remaining hovering where he'd been. Alright, come on! Gohan charged in, but Beerus caught his fist, punching him high into the air and catapulting him off into one of the several moons that had just until now orbited the sacred Kai planet. Gohan felt rock crushing in all around him, felt cuts opening up all over his body. Even with all my techniques, he's still handling me like it's nothing. Was I really the right choice? I've never been like you, Dad. You were always so self-motivated. For me, it was only the sight of you still fighting that drove me on. I know I had a busy childhood, but a lot of it I don't remember anymore. One thing stands out though. I vividly remember. Your receding back as you ran ahead to the fight. No fears or reservations. Unless I was just mad with rage or something though. That's never been me. Outside, Beerus was getting bored. It began to form an energy ball to blow up the moon and force Gohan out into the open. You're our hero now. Earth's hero. You were the real hero, Dad, never me. Maybe you should have become God. I could never be like that, could I? Beerus' attack crashed into the small moon, blasting it into atoms. The god of destruction smiled. That ought to make him... Huh? He heard the telltale hiss of instant transmission, the crackle of energy. Kami! Beerus whipped around, a pair of flat-handed chops smacking Gohan's hands apart. That technique takes too long. It's useless at this range. He drove another punch home, the impact throwing Gohan back. Think, will you? At least make this fun. You think this is fun? You threaten my family and friends, my world, and expect me to play your games? Gohan! Beat him! Do it, son! Get him, Gohan! I still don't know if I was the right choice. Gohan's grip tightened, making Beerus wince in pain. The Felinoid tried to tug it away, but found he couldn't. But I do know that I believe in my father, and he thinks it has to be me. You want a challenge? He'd been containing the force of his attacks up until now, and directing them entirely at his opponent, as instructed. But the force of this rising haymaker was too great for him to contain. Reality stretching around it, and another nuclear blast accompanied Beerus tumbling uncontrollably back through the sky. Gohan pursued him, grabbing a hold of his shoulder and putting instant transmission to good use, locking onto his father's energy and taking them both back to Earth. They materialized a few feet off the ground, the battered party guests looking up in shock as the pair of gods who suddenly appeared, still fighting with focused intensity just above their heads, superliminal flashes punctuating each move. Alright, let's show me how hard I can hit. I can control it next time. Now I'm not in danger of killing everyone in the back blast, Gohan hissed, dodging a sweeping kick. I'd like to be able to see what I'm fighting for. Beerus snorted. Foolish. You saw what happened to everywhere else we fought. Do you want the same thing to happen to Earth? You'd be doing my job for me. It won't happen here, Gohan said firmly. I didn't want to use this technique. I haven't had the chance to test it in battle yet. But I still haven't done much damage to you, so here goes. He breathed in deeply, concentrating. If you'd seen me fight Majin Buu, you'd know about my dimension step. It's the ultimate expression of the shifting technique I've been using on you. This is an improved version. I've actually been trying to think of a name for a while now, but I think I've got it. Are you done? Beerus idly flicked his ear. I don't care what your technique is, just use it already. If you insist. Gohan took one step forwards, spreading what seemed to be ripples through the air, almost as if he was walking on water. Quietly, he said, God step. God? Beerus raised one eyebrow. Gohan's outline blurred, and immediately after, he disappeared. God step. An arm materialized, punching Beerus in the back of the head before vanishing. Is a combination. A knee caught him in the side. Of shifting and an energy beam knocked him to the ground. Instant transmission. Gohan fully reappeared, raising his guard as Beerus stood. Using my dimension step ability to phase in and out of the 5th dimension, and my normal shifting ability to open portals, then applying them both to the instant transmission dimension. You're actually able to stay in the pocket dimension for extended period. That is impressive, Beerus admitted. Raditz, hearing this, groaned. You mean the kid only got instant transmission a year or two ago, and he's already better at it than me? Man, maybe I should have gone to school after all. Did Saiyans even have schools? Break asked him. We had the training grounds, I guess. Used to spar a lot there. His face fell. I, didn't win very often. You were a late bloomer, Launch reassured him. I mean, you went from relatively weak to your race's messianic figure in, what, a year? Raditz's reply was drowned out by Beerus shredding the ground as he tumbled wildly past them. He stood unsteadily, and was immediately knocked a couple of steps sideways as Gohan appeared, swinging a high, powerful kick, before retreating back into the instant transmission dimension again. Alright! Beerus growled, failing to block another attack, which stretched out to graze on his shoulder. I've had enough of this! This last part was punctuated by a wordless scream. A tunnel of twisting ki flew out from his wide-open mouth, spiraling into a focus point, and seemingly shattering the air itself in front of him, revealing through the jagged hole that had opened up a very startled Gohan. What? How did... Gohan mumbled. Found you! Beerus dived through the gap into the multicolored maelstrom, beginning another determined offensive, even as the breach closed behind him. Gohan fell back, trying to put some distance between them. How did you do that? He spluttered. Well, Beerus shrugged. You might know it's possible to break through dimensional walls with enough power. Well, yeah, Gohan replied, warily. Dad got out of the time chamber like that, but that was getting out of a pocket dimension. How did you, for want of a better word, find this instant transmission dimension? Simplicity itself. You kept jumping in and out at such close proximity to me. I began to recognize the trace and sense your energy, even across dimensions. I can't locate this dimension anytime I want like you can, but now I can follow you in if you teleport right here in front of me. Alright, he concluded, cracking his knuckles. Enough talk! He began to launch a rapid-fire volley of ki blasts, detonating where Gohan floated and leaving large smoke trails in the air. If indeed, it was air. Beerus smiled, arms still extended, as the smoke drifted away, waiting to see what kind of damage he'd inflicted. I suppose you thought I couldn't shift in this universe, came a voice from behind Beerus, startling him. But apparently the same laws of physics apply here, including access to the 5th dimension. Oh, and also? Beerus turned, noticing the buildup of divine ki and raising a cross-armed guard, almost too late. Kamehameha! Gah! Beerus was sent sailing away as the energy beam smacked into him, spinning and tumbling uncontrollably. Gohan appeared above him, swooping down for a flying kick, but Beerus twisted out of the way, grabbing his leg and wrenching it. Hissing in pain, Gohan brought his other leg around, driving a knee into Beerus' face with a gratifying crunch, then wrapped an arm around the god's neck, taking off at faster-than-light speed through the vast expanse of swirling colors with Beerus in tow, as if executing an aerial pile driver. What's the point of this? Beerus choked, tugging on Gohan's arm and trying to break free. There's nothing to land on here! No, but nobody said we had to stay here. Gohan replied, smiling and raising his free hand to touch his forehead. Earth. So, Kuriza glanced around awkwardly at the assembled group. They're gone again. Should we— No! Came Beerus' strangled cry as the two gods materialized in the air, several dozen meters away, hurtling towards the ground. They hit the ground with Beerus underneath, and just carried on going, burrowing down out of sight. A few seconds later, a low rumbling became audible. It grew louder and more distinct, until it was not a single flat noise, but a staccato rhythm of thousands of simply insanely fast punches, kicks, and blocks. Gohan and Beerus rose out of their crater, still fighting, tendrils of red and purple energy arcing out and throwing up a gale-force air current, when one of them missed or dodged. This deadlock was eventually broken when Beerus finally landed a kick, winding Gohan. Then a two-handed swing knocked the Super Saiyan God down to earth. Beerus hung in the air, trying to catch his breath, as Gohan lay on the floor, groaning. Whis came strolling up to Gohan's friends and family, smiling sweetly. Please resist the urge to go help him. Lord Beerus wouldn't take kindly to that at all. Anyway, I'm sure he'll find time for all of you. They all bristled at this, but knew all too well that getting in Beerus' way at their current level would be foolish. Gohan managed to half sit up, hearing the movement above and knowing Beerus was now standing right in front of him. I feel like I've got nothing left. I wrote about this in Groundbreaking Science. Ki is composed of Genki, vitality, the body's energy, Yuki, courage, determination, willpower, and Shoki, clarity of thought, focus. My body's drained. Amazed I can even remember this stuff after all the blows to the head. Guess I'm running on Yuki now. Beerus raised a fist. You fought well, but you don't have the experience with this kind of power to match me. He swung, but then Gohan was gone, putting on a burst of speed and leaping off the ground at Beerus, right arm swinging around. Willpower, fix it in my mind. If I can still move, I won't stop. Something changed, however. The feeling of ethereal lightness, the red glow, the unfathomable power vanished, and Beerus hastily caught Gohan's punch, holding it back without much effort. Hey, you lost your god form. Still, his ki. It's definitely divine, even now. He must have absorbed that world of power into his body. You think I care? Gohan turned Super Saiyan, a burst of strength allowing him to shove Beerus' block back, following up with a jumping spin kick. Beerus ducked under it, however, throwing an uppercut that made Gohan's field of vision spin. Beerus pressed his advantage, hammering Gohan with a succession of quick attacks. Hundreds of hits impacted his body from all directions. And yet, his powers rising? Fall, damn you! Beerus screamed, a heavy finisher sending Gohan skidding back into a wall, which crumbled behind him. Gohan said nothing, but his energy continued to grow, slowly raising his head and forming fists. Yuki, give me power! Beerus shrunk back as Gohan's eyes opened. Are you immortal? Fall! You first! He became a streak of light, rocketing into Beerus and battering his defenses with ever faster hits. Yes, Beerus thought. His power hasn't dropped much at all from when he was the Super Saiyan God. What exactly is he? That's it for Chapter 100. I'll see you in Chapter 101 in a few seconds. Stay tuned. That, and a series of noises comparable to thunderclaps on steroids, or some other suitably hyperbolic simile, were all that could be heard for quite a while as Gohan continued to hammer on Beerus' defenses. He attacked again, and Beerus jumped away, landing beside the Saiyan. The God of Destruction wheezed. You have done well. You've almost become as strong again as you were when you were in your God form. But Gohan spun, wordlessly throwing an uppercut, but Beerus caught his forearm, skidding back slightly from the Super Saiyan's seemingly inexhaustible strength. Beerus slowly began to force Gohan's arm back, continuing. Even at your best, you never made me use more than 70% of my power. He threw Gohan back, lowering his hand. And you're on borrowed time now. Soon even 70% will be overkill for dealing with you. Gohan took in a deep breath, fixing Beerus with a glare. You're asking me to give up? Beerus nodded slowly. I am. Be reasonable. After all that I have said, do you have any reason to believe that you can still win? No. Not really. Gohan laughed softly, wincing at the pain that it sent shooting through his abdomen. Hell, you've pretty much got me beat, if that was only 70%. So yeah, I want to give up. I really do. You, Beerus frowned. You're really? What happened to that determination? Of course I'm not! Gohan snapped. Let me finish. He rapped his knuckles on the side of his head, trying to clear his blurring vision. You see, I want to stop fighting now. I've never been a big fan of it, to be honest. I'm hurting pretty bad. You're tired too, but not nearly as much as me. And all in all, I think you're right. I really want to just give up now. He held up a finger. But I can't! You what? Beerus scratched his head, expression blank. What kind of logic is that? See, there's all these people around here. They're all watching and hoping with everything they've got that I'll beat you. Even as he said this, his friends and family were timidly approaching, frightened of the power on display, but curious at the pause in the battle. Even more than I don't want to fight, I don't want to let them down. Videl, Goten, Mom, Dad, in this world or the next. He finished, the hum of his Super Saiyan aura growing to a crescendo. I'm not going to see them cry. Noble. Beerus darted in, ducking under an uncoordinated swipe and landing 2 successive jabs to Gohan's face, knocking him back again. But all the good intentions in the world won't change the fact that you're outclassed, and hopelessly so. Gohan! Videl's teeth clenched at the sight of her partner being struck again, barely holding herself back despite the odds. Don't be so focused on winning you forget about surviving, okay? She called out with sudden force. You're not gonna let Pan grow up without you, are you? Stop letting him hit you! Beerus lunged again, but swung through nothing but air, feeling a grip on his shoulder. Survive? Gohan mumbled. Don't think I can manage that anymore. I'll be happy if Pan gets to grow up at all at this point. He threw Beerus up and over his head, the Hakaishin flying backwards through a Capsule Corp building and into the road behind. Cars swerved and honked at the sudden arrival, frantic to get out of the way. Beerus, naturally, ignored them, staring up at the ruined building until Gohan appeared hovering above the wreckage. Beerus launched himself back up at Gohan, who retreated into the center of the compound to receive Beerus' charge. He swayed out of the way, forming an energy sword and slicing at his opponent. Beerus bared his teeth with a bestial growl, raising an arm and focusing his own ki into a circular shield, letting Gohan's attack clash against it, throwing off sparks of deadly energy. He formed such a strong defense, so quickly! Gohan dissipated his sword, kicking off Beerus' shield and backflipping away, then launching a two-handed ki back down at his enemy. Beerus had already dropped his own construct and immediately returned fire with a ki of his own. The 2 shockwaves of force collided, blasting both fighters away instantly. They flipped to their feet, drawing back ki-charged fists and charging, passing each other with a final superluminal flash, accompanied by an explosive wave of power that threatened to shake the city apart. The 2 fighters stood opposite each other for a second, arms extended. Beerus winced as a deep cut opened on his upper arm, standing up straighter. You fought well, Saiyan God, he murmured, as Gohan collapsed behind him, golden aura vanishing. Gohan! Goku yelled. Chi-Chi froze. No. And now, as promised, Beerus said without the slightest pause, I'll destroy Earth. Everyone shrank back, fearful of the glowing hand Beerus raised. Damn you! Tien growled. Damn it! Why won't my body move? I'm not done yet! Even if it kills me, I will be a hero like them! Doesn't mean not feeling fear. It means overcoming it! It doesn't mean you never fall. It means you stand back up! Beerus' eyes narrowed, his slowly coalescing energy ball glowing brighter. And then it was gone, and there was a terrible fiery heat on his back. Gohan, the power of the Super Saiyan God burning around him, had grappled the god from behind, locking both arms around Beerus. I won't let you take this world from me! His energy began to climb in intensity, and it was clear to the shocked onlookers that he was preparing for a suicide attack. You! Beerus choked. How did you regain your god form? When he got no reply, he tried a different tact. You'd really sacrifice your life to stop me destroying this world! Like I said, it's not something I want to do. But, no matter how much my body's hurting, or my mind is screaming that it wants to survive, if because of how I feel, I let down 7 billion people, that'd just be selfish of me. He's serious! Beerus realized, panicking. This is the end, Beerus! Gohan began, But then, faster than even the gods could follow, Whis was there, arm blurred in movement like a striking snake, seemingly barely brushing by Gohan's neck. And then, god power fading again, Gohan fell, releasing Beerus and landing sprawled at the duo's feet. Damn! Gohan spat, struggling to sit up. The other one! I am sorry, Whis said, bowing, but I could not let you kill both yourself and Lord Beerus. It would be a great shame to lose either of you. Have no fear, however. Beerus will not be destroying Earth. Right, Beerus agreed. Watch. He charged up energy in his hand again, firing a ki blast directly at the ground, but the crater created was barely a meter across. Even fighting at only 70%, I used up all my stamina against you, Beerus admitted to Gohan. Indeed, you've destroyed a very small Earth, Whis giggled. But that's not what I meant. He grinned at Beerus. It's been a while now since you've had the intention of destroying this planet. Beerus turned away, arms folded, tail twitching. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm not going to start acting friendly all of a sudden, alright? Still, Gohan said as his family rushed over, helping him to his feet. Whis, that attack... Hell, you might be almost as strong as Beerus. Actually, Beerus murmured, clearly still embarrassed. Whis is not just my assistant. He's also my martial arts teacher. Oh, Goku looked from one to the other. So the real strongest in the universe is... And this universe, of which I am the Hakaishin, is only one of 12, Beerus continued. In other universes, there may be still stronger fighters. Goku's eyes were shining. Oh, wow. Wonder if I'll ever get to see him someday. Who knows? Whis answered lightly. We should be going, however. Lord Beerus has fought his Super Saiyan God, and your world is safe. I'm sorry for ruining your party. Bulma, now quite unsteady on her feet after having taken to downing a glass for her nerves every time it looked like Gohan was losing, waved a finger in the pair of otherworldly visitors' general direction, slurring. Yeah, you get out of here, alright? It's my birthday, you know? Right. 18 sighed, gently sitting her friend down and turning back to Whis. She does have a point. It's going to take a while to fix all this. You better go before she sobers up, actually, or she'll have you two doing all the repair work yourself. Right. With a cheery wave from Whis and a begrudging nod from Beerus, they took off and vanished into the sky in a matter of moments. Though it was discovered later that, before leaving, they made off with the entire party's supply of sushi, not to mention most of the wasabi. There was a moment of relaxing, a collective exhalation of long-held breath. But it was only a moment. Immediately afterwards, the pair of Kaioshins appeared in their midst with Kabitoshin's instant movement. Old Kai leapt straight at Gohan, shaking him violently by the shoulders. What did you do to my planet? He shrieked before breaking away and hopping about, clutching at his head. You ungrateful people! Is this all the thanks I get for all the help I've given you? Gohan nervously pointed to the halo above old Kai's head. Don't you only have 24 hours in the living world? I mean, are you going to use it up yelling at me? Gah! The Guardian exclaimed, running back to his younger counterpart. Let's get out of here! Back to Otherworld, post-haste! Kabitoshin sighed, mumbling before teleporting away. And no congratulations to him for fighting off an actual god. No, that'd be a little too much. As things finally began to settle down, Dende, who'd been taking a stroll and conversing with Bulma's parents, had subsequently missed almost the entire battle, and was drawn into a rather awkward discussion. And I'm telling you, he said defensively, backing away a step, if it could be healed, it would have just now. Well, why couldn't it? Goten demanded, pointing at Vegeta Jr. Ever since we defused, we've each been deaf in one ear. I don't know. Dende protested. If I had to guess, I'd say that it's because my healing magic restores you to your natural uninjured state. When you defused, you transformed from one person into two completely different people. It must have been, well, set as your default state. Huh? Vegeta's brow wrinkled. You mean if we get hurt as Gogeta, it's permanent? That sucks. Not entirely, Dende said timidly. From what I understand, you can still heal naturally given enough time, so any bruises or cuts will fade eventually, like normal. But Beerus' hands must have been moving at a significant fraction of the speed of light when he hit you. He created a vacuum inside your ears and caused a lot of damage. Permanent damage, even for someone as strong as you. He shrugged. You're kind of lucky, actually, that you're not both completely deaf after defusing. A lot of how fusion works is still a complete mystery. Vegeta paced anxiously. What about a sensu bean? We could try a couple of those. Nah, Goten replied, shaking his head. My brother was studying those once, and I remember what he said. They speed up your body's natural healing, so that's why they can't regrow limbs and stuff like Dende can. Whatever! Vegeta flung up his arms in defeat. Damn it, this sucks! Yeah, you said. If I see that Beerus guy again... Other than the collective wrath of everyone with a long enough memory to trace the origins of the whole debacle descending on Break for ticking off the God of Destruction, and Zarbon and Roshi shortly joining Bulma in the artificially induced state of mind where walking steadily and forming coherent sentences are a distant memory, nothing much else needs to be said about the remnants of the party. The Battle of the Gods had been the main event, and things felt sort of concluded after it was over. And since no more needs to be said about it, no more shall be said about it. Hakaishin Temple. Beerus lay back on the grass, exhausted. That was fun, you know. Those guys might one day become really fearsome opponents. Whis agreed, staring off absent-mindedly into the distance. I briefly thought about asking that boy to become the next Hakaishin after Beerus. But then, I don't think he's suited for it. To be honest, I can't imagine any of that group accepting an offer like that. Beerus yawned. I'm tired. How long shall I rest for this time, I wonder? Whatever suits you, Whis mumbled. Beerus gave a curious glance upwards. His attendant was usually very particular about what the optimum amount of sleep was for his charge, but today he seemed distracted by something. Beerus, however, didn't particularly care. Whis acted strange sometimes. He'd return to his normal, bubbly self soon. Surely. It is fortunate indeed that the nature of narrative storytelling allows us to go into detail with only the most interesting parts of someone's life, and conversely employ the time-honored time skip when nothing much happens for a considerable length of time, or at least nothing worth mentioning. And this was indeed the case for an entire 8 years. The only aliens that showed up on Earth during this time were lost and asking for directions. And speaking of alien visitors, Vegeta Jr. finally started calling home, but showed no sign of wanting to leave Earth since nobody back home would have been able to give him a good fight, such is often the way with Saiyans. Nobody tried to take over or destroy the world, or the universe for that matter. Beerus slept, years ticking by like minutes for him. The Supreme Kai's education from his ancestor got underway, and he began to grow into his role as guardian of the universe for the first time. The new generation was maturing on Earth too. Goku in particular was enamored of the idea that the kids should train hard in preparation for the day when their parents wouldn't be around to protect the world anymore. And this idea, which had already borne fruit into the half-Saiyan children, took hold in both Pan and Marin. The latter almost lived a normal, peaceful life, but 18 seemed determined to prove the strength and potential of an unaugmented human could attain, with enough effort. Further, Budokai Tenkaichi, strongest under the heavens, world martial arts tournaments were held. The 26th was won by Gogeta after a number of stalling actions and what could be called hijinks, in order to give him enough time to fuse before each match. After a close-fought match, however, he was defeated by Goku in the final of the 27th tournament. A copy of groundbreaking science could be found in almost every home, though the dedication and effort required was too much for many. Key use occupied the same social space as going to the gym, weightlifting, martial arts, and so on had always held. It made you much more physically capable, but many people get by on their mental capability alone in this modern age, and so only those looking to get in shape or expecting a fight would bother. Putting serious effort into working out without adding some key training to the mix, as rather a pointless exercise, became almost unheard of though. Of course, there was some difference. More people put in the effort now because, come on, laser beams. The existence of aliens and magic was already common knowledge, but the specific issues of the Saiyans and the Dragon Balls remained secrets. The time still did not seem to be right, and perhaps it never would be. The Dragon Balls finally went unused for a good while though, much to the old Kai's relief. He'd always been hesitant about overusing them, or indeed using them at all. The World Tournaments, however, were undoubtedly the highlights, and not just because they provided an excuse for grand reunions. The 28th, for instance, would be remembered for a long while. By the competitors certainly, and the international audience besides. The tournament attracted considerably more media attention in this age of superpowered martial arts. But it would be absolutely unforgettable for one particular competitor, a singular boy named Oob. Thank you so much for listening to chapters 100 and 101 of Break Through the Limit. A little bit of a schedule for next week. Next week will be chapters 102 and 103. And the week after that will be the final chapter of Break Through the Limit, officially, before we move into even further beyond. I've taken a look ahead. It's going to be a pretty long chapter, so chapter 104 will be its own video. I might be able to do 2 videos next week, but don't quote me on that. I'm still trying to figure everything out. But anyway, definitely within 2 weeks' time, Break Through the Limit will be finishing up. After that, Even Further Beyond. But I'll have to figure out the schedule for Even Further Beyond. But I'll keep you all updated as soon as I have more information. Anyway, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends. Follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with the show. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe. Ginger Powers, signing off.